Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on Thursday, October 28th. We're going to take a look at Upstart today. Upstart won the poll that I put out on YouTube by a lot last night. That said, it didn't win the Twitter poll, but in those cases, I just cover both tickers, and that is not a problem. Now, Upstart up almost 5% today, but we're not really here to talk about the day today. What I want to mostly focus in on is this run and see, where it might be going based on some charting here. And I'm going to do this in real time just to, to the degree to which it's interesting to folks to see how I would go about this. But 156.77, and then we take our level to 401.49 and kind of see what happened. So coming down right now to the 382, which is a really good support level on the fib. Especially, I'd be interested to see what happened here when there was this little pullback here. Also came down to the 382. Now that said, if we move this over and we say this then is a secondary run, and this is going to go here, and this is going to go, oh, good Lord, too much nonsense popping up. It's going to go here. What's that? 401.49. 401.49. Now we're down to the 786 on the secondary run, and I like a pop from there much, much better. So that makes a bunch of sense to me. Retrace to 382 after this first one, and then coming down to the 786 on the secondary run. Now, if that holds up relatively well, let's see where it extended to. So if we're saying that this was the first run, 50, what do we want here? 56.77. And this was our run up, and then this was our retracements, and then it extended up to the 618s. Okay, but it just had a larger first move here. This looks to me more like a third move in sort of a wave sequence. But 281.13, 281.13. It doesn't want to give me 281.30 to 401.49. Okay, and then down here. So here, if we get some better extension levels to the upside, these would be potential upside price targets that I would look for if it's able to keep this like insane bull run that it's had going, since it gapped up here after like being in the 140s. If it's able to keep that going, I mean, 100% extension at this point would bring it to 430. It would grab at another $100 a share. Now I don't know if it's gonna make that movement. It's a lot to ask of a stock, but those are potential levels that could play out if it does start to make a strong move to the upside, and certainly could see it accumulating along these levels if it does. So if you want to sort of take a screenshot or jot those down or something, it could be something to watch and look for as we just sort of like tick the clock away. Now, other than that, there is a bit of a channel here, it looks like. Let's see how this tool works on Webull. Yeah, so, I mean, I'll say that there's this here, but yeah, so see, they kind of grab it. It has recently fallen out of what would be considered more the true channel, which is upheld here by the testing and retesting of the upper bound of this channel. Because to extend it down here is, fudging it pretty clearly. Additionally so because these are really recent candlesticks, right? So you don't really know if those are going to hold up. So it essentially looks like it's fallen out of the channel to me at the moment, the channel that encompassed this entire big run up, and which it hadn't done previously, and now it's sort of battling with the bottom bound of the channel. So I'd be really interested to just see what it does with that. Sometimes we see these things try to work themselves back into the channel. Sometimes we see them sort of follow the channel, the bottom bound of the channel up, so it's still accomplishing the same goal of moving upward, but it's just not quite in the channel anymore, and it just sort of treats that bottom bound of the channel as resistance. Or The more clear indication would be if it starts to clearly move away from the channel or even just consolidates sideways, which would then be distancing itself from an upward channel. So if either of those things happen, then I would look to maybe see where there are some support levels below, because it may need them. Now, there is potentially a little bit of another, so yeah, so it could be picking up a bit on this at the moment. So here is, and I think it just sort of like happens to be in this position, right? It's not perfectly parallel to this channel, but it's just close, it's tight into it. But this is where it started to accumulate up, and especially where the volume was sort of like starting to pick up here. Like you see this pretty dead volume here, and then it started to pick up a little and move up, and then it really boomed. And as that volume started to kind of pick up, this is the slight uptrend support that it was developing. So it's kind of fallen back to the extended level of that. So that to me would be the first indicator that it's going to leave this channel altogether. Obviously, it'll be more clear if it's going to go into the channel. It would just go back into the channel. But if it's going to potentially move away from this channel and drop further, I would look for it to lose support of this yellow uptrending support line. Now, if that happens, some key levels that I would look at, hold on, let me stick this here and I'm going to move it around. I'm going to change this color because it's bothering me. I can't see anything. Okay, there we go. So key levels that I would look for here. Okay, there's a little bit of a level here, which is probably additionally helping it out at the moment, this 306 level. You see resistance to flip to supports, and then it sort of knocked right off of that with the wick here. Resistance that overcame and tried to flip to support, and then eventually did confirm support here, right? So that's a bit of a level. The other one that's pretty close to this, yeah, this to me is probably the stronger level, this 296.50. You see this clear pivot here, where you have resistance, support, confirm support, caught support again, flipped it to resistance. This one ended up fighting more with that 306. So you might have a little bit of like a $10 band there from like 296 to 306 that just sort of acts as this sort of like zone of support. Now, I don't know if we would need additional levels below that, but I would look here, 277, and then right about here, like what is that, 262. So those would be the support levels that I would look for to the downside. Obviously, if it blows through those, we can come back and take a closer look. To the upside here, I would look here, resistance to flip to support, clear resistance here, and then treated resistance there, and today's candle as well. So that seems to be a bit of a sticky zone for it. And then there's another pivot point here, like 352. You see this pivot here, this support, resistance. It's another one. And then it gets pretty tight, but there's another one, support, resistance, 365. And then the last one that we'll put, if it does come back up through, would be this 380. I'll put one more. Why not? We're here. There we go. 391. So those are the levels that I would look at, especially if it's able to get back into the channel. Now I know this mucks up the chart quite a bit, just makes it very busy, but it's been a stock that's on a crazy ride. So it's hard to sort of, I feel like we need to in one video, I'm not going to follow up on this tomorrow and next Monday, and I'm not going to turn this into a daily thing, but so hopefully this has a little bit of longevity to it. Trying to account for some potentially pretty sizable swings to the upside and the downside just based on the recent volatility that it has shown. But that's what I would look for on the charting side of things. We can grab a couple of indicators really quickly. MACD looking like it wants to push down further, so it might really be putting a test on this yellow uptrend support. Might put some strain on there for sure. EMA wise, here's the 50. So it's obviously treating the 9 and the 12 as resistance at the moment. So we'll see if it's able to flip that or grab the 50 as potentially additional support if and when it gets there. RSI wise, fighting with the mid-range, which if you've heard me talk about this before, this is how I like to look at the RSI. Now, if it's going to move down further, obviously it's going to reject off the mid-range, but it's at a really key zone here. I mean, it's key. It's at a key zone in many ways. It's at this level of resistance, this 337-ish level. Like the wicks of the candle were there today at least. It's at the bottom bound of the channel, so it's fighting with the bottom bound of the channel. It's fighting with the 9 and the 12 EMAs to the upside, and then it's scrunched between that and this downside support, which is this yellow line, plus the 306 zone that encompasses that like pretty solid zone of 296 to 306. So it's grabbing at a lot there, and the mid-range is so key here, I find, because something like this, right? This looks like this run has got to end at some point, but what does it do? It comes down and tests the mid-range of the RSI by dropping to 53, and then what does it do? Runs right back up to overbought. Now this time when it came down and tested the mid-range, it fell right through it. Right, it came down and busted through, and now it grabbed into the 40s, and now it's trying to reestablish support up over the mid-range of the RSI. So it'll be a pretty telling moment, like, maybe even tomorrow and just Monday, to see if it rejects off of that and heads back down, or if it's able to come back through and have more action up above the mid-range of the RSI. Now, flipping over to the data, this is where Ortex has things situated at the moment. Kind of a mixed bag. From the analyst, 305 price targets, down a little under 3% from where we are. Price has come down over 5% in the last month. On the short seller side of things, basically like not a lot happening, right? I don't know if they're just scared to get into this one. I mean, who knows? A lot of times you see a stock run up like this and they start piling in quite heavily, but utilization very, very low. Cost to borrow, nothing. Days to cover, minuscule. Current short interest percentage of the free float, as estimated by Ortex, 7.41%. So, under 10, well enough under 10 that it's probably not playing a huge factor in any sort of like distorted selling pressure, optics wise, for Upstart. But yeah, that's what's going on as I see it. Oh, there was one other thing that I quickly caught a glimpse of, and I was like, yeah, so a lot of insider sells lately. I don't know, that may be due to something else, I don't know. But the last year, we've seen quite 282 transactions, and a lot of those, a bunch of those have come within the last 3 months. So, or they've actually come within the last 3 months, I guess I should say. It's not that they're a year old, it's more like they're 3 months old. So that's a lot of selling to be going on, especially when the stock has continued to push up throughout that range of time. Interesting. But, something to watch there for sure. All right, folks. Well, in any case, I hope that you're able to finish the week off strong tomorrow, and I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.